Welcome to Overwatch. This time we're going to talk our way through the shifting tank meta as a result of the recent patch. A few interesting things have kind of bubbled up thanks to the large changes to damage dealers and, well, the tank changes overall. Was Zarya nerfed into the ground? Is Reinhardt alright? Is D.Va actually viable now? And does Winston, in fact, require no aim and no brain? Let's talk tanks. First, I'll do my redaction. Zarya is in a better place than I expected. The changes to how her damage is dealt when tracking feels incredibly nice on live. I'm also not 100% sure that the charge bleed change came in, the rate at which your charge decays, meaning she doesn't seem to drop down quite as much as she did on PTR. When playing with Zarya, I'm not feeling quite as starved as I was on the PTR at the very least, and perhaps I'm not quite as fast to build as I used to be, but her damage actually feels really smooth now. If you aren't aware, they apparently have changed how the coding works on how the damage is actually dealt by her left click. The bottom line is that her left click now registers much cleaner, I guess. If you're tracking properly, you'll deal more damage than you used to. She's also much better at doing consistent damage to targets like Genji and Tracer, rather than having to hope for the beam to be over them when the beam ticks its damage for that hurt to actually be registering. Zarya is also in a nice position because, well, D.Va is now in. Oh baby, is D.Va in. While I still dislike the boost to her health, I honestly think the move speed increase is such an unsung hero into her viability. She can now keep up with people for longer while shelling away dealing damage, meaning that the simple art of backpedaling away from her no longer mitigates like 50% of her DPS. The 100 hit points on her mech does also mean that she's in it for longer and she's getting away from firefights a little bit more and more frustrating than ever to handle. Combine it with Zarya or someone like Anna especially, and she'll just keep on fighting like a little Duracell bunny. This leaves Reinhardt in an interesting position because D.Va shreds Reinhardt. So does Soldier 76, who got buffed. In fact, a lot of the things that blow apart Reinhardt's barriers are pretty good right now, which means, well, Reinhardt's going to have a tough time. Starting to think that the old-fashioned Reinhardt slow push is somewhat on its way out. Grinding forward behind a barrier into a Roadhog, Reaper, D.Va, Soldier, hell even Torbjorn is kind of tricky to do. This is further impacted by the nano boost changes. No more speed means no more nano boosted Reinhardt easily sweeping a team, meaning slow pushing with Reinhardt is even harder to justify. Overwatch has hit a place where it feels like a shitload more options are now available. If you're running something slow, it's going to be easy to counterpick it accordingly. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a shift towards more high-impact dive comps, things built around Winston, Zarya and D.Va that get in hard and fast and take initiative nice and early. This is especially true with Soldier 76's rise. You see, Soldier 76 is great when he has time and when he has space. He can safely outduel people from the mid-range and get a cheeky bit of burst to finish up. When he's got a 300-pound gorilla jumping on his face though, that's when you really start to want to have that McCree or Reaper around instead. So running at him with D.Va or Winston with a Zarya barrier slapped on top of them is a great way to make Soldier 76 feel real bad real quick. I also want to briefly touch on Roadhog. He is what he is. He's a one-man pick machine. 6-second cooldown on the hook remains still one of the most insane abilities in the game, and he's still a defensive powerhouse. Running into a Roadhog is just incredibly hard to do. Just be careful with him. I want to show this clip from my stream where I got an absurdly fast EMP as Sombra. Hog super low, knocking on Hog. Hog's down. I'm just going to EMP them.
What?
Yeah, nice. Kill Lucio.
Oh, he's
Roadhog, man.
Lucio.
Let's burn this area.
Okay, just put on the far up high if you want him to start.
Yeah, I'm after it. Reaper on the left.
I'm going to take Hog super low, knocking on Hog.
Oh, what?
Kind of crazy, isn't it? Honestly, even with more damage flying around, Hog is, well, Roadhog. Until his hook is changed, he'll remain a massive source of pain and her that everyone should probably just feel a bit nervous around. Still, I would definitely recommend running him with other tanks that can barrier him in support, Zarya and Reinhardt in particular, and mostly on defense. At the end of the day, if you're like me, you're probably thinking, oh, what the fuck are you trying to say here with this video? What I'm saying is this: Reinhardt is no longer a no-brainer choice. There were already plenty of maps and places where running Reinhardt was not desirable, shall we say, and I think that's been opened up even further, where there are just good alternatives to running Reinhardt available. And I kinda like that. Overwatch since the patch is a little more dynamic, a little bit more brawly, and a lot more skill based. Less about how fast you can build up a queue and then manage to drop it in the right place. Even things like requiring barriers to stop Earthshatters are a little less important due to the ultimate percent changes, and D.Va arguably has as much zoning potential for enemy ultimates that aren't an Earthshatter. I'll also mention Sombra nice and quickly. Although I think EMP is less of a high impact ult than people are expecting, it does work wonders on Reinhardt by annihilating their barrier in an instant and does hurt him a little bit, but I still don't think he's necessarily that affected by Sombra's presence in the game. It isn't all doom and gloom, of course. 2,000 hit points is 2,000 hit points. It's just a very big, very easy to shoot 2,000 hit points. This is why I want to emphasize fast pushes and dive comps swinging in. Winston, Genji and Tracer-based aggression getting into the enemy backline and sniping out supports nice and quickly. If you try and move slowly or get drawn into a longer firefight, Reinhardt will, of course, do better. But using your tanks properly with the right objective in mind is, well, a skill, and that should be rewarded. We'll probably talk about the ultimate changes more in depth next time, but I'm pretty happy with the game at the moment. I hope you guys are too. It certainly feels a little more open with how you can build and play around your team. Thanks for watching to the end. I have been Josh, as one voice amongst many. Feel free to come join me on my stream 5 nights a week from 10 PM any day that isn't Tuesday or Wednesday. Think next video we're going to talk specifically actually about some interesting plans with that stream and the coaching videos going forward. Toodles.